All right, we're almost there, folks. The last but not least, the last part of this is the films. Now, this is going to be pretty quick. I'm going to be real. I didn't really see that many films this year. So I couldn't even do a top 10. I got a top 6 list of films that I saw this year. So, sorry movie theater. It just is what it is. Stop charging so much. And more importantly, Hollywood, make better movies. We're done with your cheesy sequels like Jurassic World Terrible or whatever that movie was. So, I didn't see that. I wasn't going to bother to see that. So, anyway, let's go into this list. Oop, I almost forgot one. So, I guess I'm getting closer to top 10. So, at number 7, Uncle Drew. Alright, this movie came out of left field. I didn't even really pay attention when it came out. But my dad was like, hey, let's go see this movie. It's extremely reminiscent of Blues Brothers. So, kind of getting the band back together thing. But instead, it's for basketball. Now, what's cool about it is, I'll be honest, since the early 2000s, I haven't been paying attention to the NBA. I have no idea who's, besides Steph Curry, I don't know anybody in the NBA still. In fact, here I find out that, players that I used to like in the 90s and early 2000s are now coaches, and it's over my head. I have no idea. But anyway, Uncle Drew. It's a cool, funny story about how, whatever, the older gentleman, he's going to find his old players, his old team, and they're doing this tournament in New York City, and they're just going around and finding all the old players. So, and a lot of them are, classic NBA and WNBA players, like Lisa Leslie's in it, and Chris Webber, and they play the preachers, the preacher and the preacher's wife. Yeah, they're hilarious. But anyway, Shaquille O'Neal's in it, and he's hilarious. He makes like a reference to, a reference to what's it called, Kazam, and it's just funny. But anyway, it's one of those good-hearted, good-natured comedy movies. So, but yeah, Uncle Drew, it was a good time. Now, number 6, this movie actually came kind of unexpected. And, I should say it came out unexpected, but I was surprised that I enjoyed it. Now, unfortunately, this movie kind of was the martyr for the Star Wars universe. So y'all already know what I'm talking about. This is going to be Solo, one of the expanded Star Wars stories. Now, with all the flack that the Star Wars universe has gotten for The Last Jedi and, what's it called, Force Awakens, this movie's garbage. So Star Wars fans are much less trusting of putting their money into these movies. So unfortunately, Solo is the martyr. And here's the thing, the movie actually isn't that bad. It is not that bad. I would much rather watch Solo than Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. Like, those movies are garbage. But Solo is actually decent. It's not perfect, but it's decent. I think each of the actors and actresses do a really good job with their characters. Some of the references are really cool. And seeing Darth Maul at the end, spoiler alert, is really cool how they tied in that history with the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. And of course, he had been a part of criminal organizations in the Clone Wars and the whole thing with Mandalore. So that was really cool how they tied that in. But, like some folks have pointed out, it's not exactly a necessary film. It really doesn't give a huge backstory into Han Solo. It just kind of shows you a couple of things. It's more or less one situation. It's kind of like this heist. So you kind of see that. It's just one small story with one character. So it's still decent, but it was the martyr that had to shake up things for Disney in the Star Wars universe. So there you have it at number 6, Solo. Number 5, Deadpool 2. Now, one of my criticisms of the first Deadpool is that it's still a cliched superhero story. It's just funnier. So I still enjoy Deadpool, but Deadpool 2 is a bit funner. It's a bit funner. It's a bit funnier, and story-wise it's pretty cool. So it's an enjoyable film. It has some, good humor in it, and most of all, it just is cool story-wise. Cable, the supporting cast, they're pretty cool. So, Deadpool 2. Now, number 4, A Quiet Place. This movie I watched with my wife, and it's a different style of film, but it shows this family, of course, and then it's got the creatures that go by sound. I'm not gonna lie, the moment I would fart, I'm doomed. Like, them critters would have killed me right away, and I get too much gas, so I would have been done for. But yeah, Quiet Place, number 4. It doesn't go into the backstory of the critters, so you don't really know too much. You get, like, the newspaper clippings and everything, and it kind of would have been more interesting. I shouldn't say more interesting. It would have been interesting to see how others were able to live. But at the same time, I kind of enjoyed specifically watching this one particular family. So, A Quiet Place, number 4. And of course, suspense-wise, they really hit the nail on the coffin, so to speak, with it. Suspense-wise, like, oh my gosh, constantly suspenseful. So, pretty good edge-of-your-seat film. So, number 3. This one is one of those films that it could have been great. So, it was a fusion of good and bad. And that's why it's number 3. But this is Fantastic Beasts 2: Crimes of Grindelwald. Interestingly enough, fans are definitely in disagreements with this film. And all the criticisms are definitely spot on. I still had fun with it, so that's why it's so high on my list. I personally really enjoyed Johnny Depp's performance as Grindelwald. I thought he played it really well. And unlike Voldemort, who's kind of that monstrous villain and like everyone fears him, Grindelwald's not like that. He's a convincer. He is charismatic. He gets you to think the same way as him. Whereas Voldemort is just more monstrous, like, I'm going to kill you if you don't do what I tell you. Whereas Grindelwald convinces you to do what he's telling you to do. I really enjoyed Johnny Depp's performance. I think he played the character well. It would have been nice to see more of him. I thought Jude Law was great as Dumbledore, and the way he's portrayed there. Where some of the problems arise, most of all, too much in one movie. You had too many side stories. I'm sure if they're ever, and J.K. Rowling should do this, they should just do a book version of this. It would be along with the film, because there's so many details. It would have been fantastic to read it as a book and get all the details. I thought the characters were decent. Newt's brother, it was cool, but I think it tried to do too much. You had Newt Scamander and his critters and everything, but how does that fit with Dumbledore and Grindelwald? And it's like, you know what I mean? Eventually, the apex or climax of the film series is going to be Dumbledore dueling Grindelwald in 1945. So it's kind of like, I read one recommendation that it should switch to Dumbledore's perspective, maybe. Something like that. So, I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed all the characters of Fantastic Beasts. I really like Fantastic Beasts as a standalone film, but this one doesn't add up. And me personally, here's the thing. Harry Potter, really enjoy the series. Right now, I'm reading the books. I never did that. So that's one of my commitments going into 2019. I'm reading all the books. I'm at Goblet of Fire right now. Just FYI. But anywho, I love the books. I really enjoy the story, but it's still coming of age. It's still a coming of age story. And what I love about Fantastic Beasts is that you don't deal with any of that. You don't deal with any of that little, teeny bopper stuff. and you don't deal with that coming of age. All the characters are adults, so I really like seeing adults, you know what I mean, engaging in magic and all that type of stuff. So that makes it a bit more interesting. That's why I really like the first Fantastic Beasts. With this film, they tried to do too much, and it shows. So I'm hoping that they take a step back and reanalyze what they're doing for the third one that's going to come out, I guess, a year or two from now, and hopefully they really get the timing right. And it would be interesting, the DVD, if they have an extended version that really I feel like there is a lot of material they edited that would have made it a better cohesive story. So we'll see coming into the new year if they do something like that. Maybe that'll make it a better all-around movie. So, but at number 3, Crimes of Grindelwald. Number 2, this movie was flat out fun. And here it is. Ready Player One. This story of a kid, it's supposed to be set in the future, and they're going into video games, and it's kind of like that. They basically, enter the video game. And who knows what the future is going to be like. We could have that where we're going into video games and all that stuff. Who knows? But anywho, I hate to think how you go to the bathroom in a situation like that. But anywho, this movie is just flat out fun. Directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's just kind of a classic Spielberg of just a good ride, like a good time. And that's pretty much the best way to describe it. It's a great time. The characters are cool. It's an adventure while being a mystery at the same time. It's extremely nostalgic. So at some points, that can be a little bit like, okay, I get it. It's nostalgic. But it wasn't enough to annoy me. And so it was just enough that I didn't get annoyed by it. But it was just flat out fun. So a great adventure film. Check it out. Ready Player One. Number 1. I'm not much of a superhero guy, but without a doubt, Avengers Infinity War. Probably one of my top superhero movies of all time. Why? Bad guy wins. Now, we'll see what happens in the next movie. But what a good time. Thanos and the Black Order, each of those characters, they go in and they kick some bahoot. But more than that, each story is just really a fun ride. You have Iron Man going up with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and doing that. The meeting of Thor with the Guardians of the Galaxy is hilarious. So it has everything in it. It's funny. It's fun, but it's also serious. It's got serious moments of it in it, and it's intense. So, without a doubt, Avengers Infinity War. Intense movie. Thanos. Pretty awesome. So, to me, I'm not even super excited to see the next one, because I'm like, this one already took the cake for me. So, plus, I don't really want to see them reverse everything Thanos did. Well, half off on everything. Just kidding. But anyway, just super intense. So, we'll see what they do for the next one. But, yeah, and the only gripes that I have with it are stupid little minor details in it. I can overlook it and be like, okay. Like, I can roll my eyes and be like, all right, whatever. And then the rest of it is just solid. It's just a really cool superhero flick. And there's a reason why it was one of the top money-making flicks of the year. So you take all the other minor stories, like Black Panther, and then like Thor Ragnarok, all those movies, and it all culminates to that film. So, and that's why this movie for sure is the top of the year. So, Avengers Infinity War. All right. Hope y'all have a good year, and I'll see you in 2019. All right.